August 8, 1963. The Glasgow to London Royal Mail train was a vital, heavy-duty artery for the British state. Hidden among the standard post was a high-security carriage operating as a mobile vault. It was loaded with millions of pounds in untraceable, used banknotes destined for destruction. Derailing a target of this size usually requires heavy explosives or physical barricades. But tonight, the tracks are totally quiet. Bruce Reynolds and his 15-man crew understood that the railway system had a blind spot. They realized they could stop the massive train without firing a single shot or planting a single bomb. They walked away with £2.6 million in cash, the equivalent of $50 million today, in a completely bloodless operation, only to destroy their own flawless execution over a board game. What became known as the heist of the century is equal parts a masterclass in tactical logistics and a study in human arrogance. The crew's primary obstacle was positioning. To unload the cash quickly, they needed the driver to halt the 120-ton locomotive at an exact isolated spot at Bridego Bridge. Their solution was to hack the railway's signaling infrastructure. Normally, the train's physical location closes a track circuit, dictating the green or red light. The gang bypassed this entirely. Wiring their own external power source into the circuit manually forced a red light. The piece of hardware required to execute this exploit was a standard, off-the-shelf 6-volt battery. That tiny electrical surge successfully triggered the heavy mechanical semaphore arm over the tracks, ordering the driver to halt immediately. By exploiting a simple electrical loop, a handful of men completely paralyzed a multi-ton national transport system. The very moment the heavy brakes locked, the massed crew breached the lead pavin in a sudden, coordinated rush. They operated under a strict rule against firearms. Instead, they relied on sheer numbers, sudden movement, and the darkness of the rural countryside to suppress the train crew. With the drivers subdued, they moved directly to the high-value carriage, uncoupling it from the rest of the passenger line to isolate the target. Time was the only variable left. The crew formed a human chain, rapidly passing 120 heavy mailbags out the doors and down the steep, grassy railway embankment. Waiting at the bottom of the slope was a fleet of rugged utility vehicles, ready to haul the enormous weight of the loot. From the moment they forced the train doors open to the moment the last vehicle drove away, exactly 15 minutes had passed. They had secured precisely £2.6 million. The operation ran with the clinical discipline of a military raid. Every variable was controlled, every movement practiced, and zero physical evidence was left at the scene. The crew vanished to a pre-arranged safe house, a quiet, isolated property called Leatherslade Farm, to divide the cash. Surrounded by a sheer volume of paper currency that covered the floors and tables, the rigid discipline that got them through the heist began to fracture. Convinced they had executed an unsolvable crime, the men relaxed. They removed their gloves, drank, and settled in to wait out the initial police response. To pass the time, they pulled out a Monopoly board and started a game. Instead of the paper play money, they used the actual stolen British pounds to buy fake properties, carelessly pressing their bare fingers onto the glossy surface of the board and the game pieces. The same tactical minds that bypassed a national railway security system failed to wipe down their own board game before fleeing the farmhouse. When Scotland Yard investigators located Leatherslade Farm, they found the property mostly scrubbed clean, until they noticed the Monopoly set left out in the open. The glossy board was a perfect medium for lifting fingerprints. Within days, detectives matched the prints to known associates, transforming a total mystery into a targeted pursuit. One by one, the authorities tracked down Bruce Reynolds and the key players. Most of the crew were convicted and sentenced to decades behind bars. However, the authorities only ever recovered a fraction of the $2.6 million. The vast majority of the cash disappeared into the criminal underworld. The precise planning and the 6-volt battery hack allowed them to take the money, but their own unchecked ego prevented them from keeping it.